Hello everyone, welcome to HackerRank TV. I'm your host for the day, Aditi Chandrasekhar, and today I'm joined by the wonderful Ker Lee, who I'll be introducing in just a minute. So interesting fact, it's about 8:30 in the morning where Ker Lee is tuning in from, and it's 10 in the evening where I'm tuning in from. So yeah, we're literally on opposite sides of the world right now, and we know many of you watching today are tuning in from all parts of the world as well. So, wherever you're tuning in from, just drop in your comments or, even just to say hi to Curly or I or just anything at all. So, welcome everyone to the live stream. We're so excited to have you guys here today, and we hope you walk away with a lot of knowledge today. So, I see that there's a few comments already coming in. So, Rahul from YouTube says hello. Hello, Rahul. Welcome to the live stream. We hope you enjoy today. Hello, Saida. We hope you enjoy the tutorial that we're going to be conducting today as well. There's Dinesh, there's Sunny. Okay, there's a bunch of comments just streaming in right now. So forgive me if I don't display yours. But hello, everyone. Welcome. So, I think I'm going to stop rambling on now and just go ahead and introduce our guest, Curly. So here we go. Our guest for today, Curly, has a knack for creating. From Snapchat and Instagram filters to icon packs for VS Code to web tools, she doesn't limit her tools of artistic expression. Armed with a degree in computer science from Caltech, Curly has previously worked at Intuit building QuickBooks, which is their accounting solution for SMBs. Today, she works at Uber as a software engineer, creating web tools for the largest ride hailing company in the world. We're here today with Curly as she takes us on a ride through her inspiring journey so far and shows us how to create an eye popping portfolio to land your dream tech jobs. So strap your seatbelts in because this will be an exciting journey. Curly, congratulations on being recognized as a Hacker Rank All Star and welcome to the live stream today.
Hey everyone, hi. Excited to be on here today.
We're excited to have you. I think, yeah, there's a lot of comments coming in. Hi, Pradeep. Hi, Osama. Keep them coming. Let us know where you guys are tuning in from, which part of the world. And yeah, I think this is a great time to get started with the first question that I have for you, Curly, which is could you tell us what your work as a software engineer at Uber involves and what do you enjoy or love the most about it?
Yeah, so I guess a big part of it is like coding, but a lot of it is also like designing how you want to code. So when there are like a lot of different teams involved and a lot of systems involved, thinking about how everything comes together, how can we use existing libraries or components. So yeah, and I love seeing like building something and seeing everything come together, like just from nothing to something really cool and something that really helps people do their work. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that really sums up the job of a software engineer. I think a lot of people kind of limit it to just like, an isolating developer just working on his keyboard all day. But it's a lot of creativity and it's a lot of collaboration, as you just mentioned, Curly. So, I think moving on to my second question, and I know a lot of you guys have questions that are coming in the comments as well. Don't worry. I'll be taking it in just a couple of minutes right after I finish my questions for Curly. So, can you throw some light on your experience with web development in particular? How did you start and where did you learn it from? Just to enlighten any aspiring web developers watching today.
Yeah, so when I was young, I played Neopets, and they had like profile pages that you had. So I had a friend who was really good at like customizing it. So I also got into it and like updated CSS, changed the colors and stuff. And then this was also the case with like blogs. Like blogs were a thing back then, and you can customize your theme. So I had a Zanga page that like I customized with the code, and it was really cool when I like tried to do it on my own. I realized that it was like literally just one text file, like an HTML file and a CSS file. Like you just have this and you can open it in your browser, and that's literally all it took to make a website, which is I thought was like amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, I think this is interesting is that a lot of web developers I know today got their start from Neopets. I'm not sure if it's just a coincidence, but that seems to have inspired like a lot of web developers to take it up. So yeah, I think yeah. So moving on to my third question, Curly. So coming into the meat of our topic today, which is developer portfolios. It's widely accepted, all across the world that designers must have a portfolio, right? Like on Behance or Dribble or just, their custom websites. It's like a stereotype at this point, but everyone has contrasting views on whether it's important for a developer to make a portfolio website. And, many people are of the opinion that a GitHub profile is enough. So, what is your perspective on this? If you could just shine some light on that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of nice to have portfolio because you can like put forward your personality a bit more, like kind of like if you're like excited person or like if you like really like cool things or if you like are a web developer specifically, like it's a good chance to really flex your engineering skills and just put that in the forefront. Or if you have a lot of like projects on the side that are not in your resume, it's nice to just have them all in one place so you can just see at a glance what it really is. So yeah. And it's also like a fun thing to just like do on the side, like make a portfolio. It's kind of fun. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's fun, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a lot of fun today making it along with you. So, yeah, I see that we have a couple of questions that have come in through comments. So, I'm just gonna bring up one from Ashish right now. Ashish, welcome to the live stream. Thank you for tuning in today. He asked, what are the advantages of using Three.js? So, if you could just, I know you're gonna dive deep into the framework a little while later, but yeah, just some pros and cons, just some general description of the framework itself.
Yeah, so actually, I don't know if there are any other like 3D rendering libraries for JavaScript. So that's like the most popular one that most people use. And what it does is it lets you make things show up in 3D very easily and like manipulate it in your code. So you don't have to like do as much like nitty-gritty programming and you can just like pop a cube on a screen like right away. So yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. I think, yeah, there's your answer, Ashish. We're not sure if there's other libraries or frameworks in JavaScript that do the amazing things with 3D that Three.js can, which we'll shortly be looking at. So, yeah, we have another question from Ankit, who's tuning in from LinkedIn. Thank you, Ankit, for joining us today. He asked, what projects can we make in web development? And I think this is a really important question to address, especially for early career professionals or even students trying to get internships like in the field of web development. I think there's a lot of crowding online about, hey, you need to make this project to shine, you need to do this, you need to do that. So I feel like there can be a lot of common confusion. So yeah, Curly, if you could just shine some light on any must-do projects or anything of that sort.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like a portfolio is an easy one. Um, yeah, if you want to get creative, you can make like little games on the web. Depends on what you're interested in, right? So, or you can like try and make like a storefront, or you can make a blog from scratch. So, like not using WordPress, but just like making it from scratch. Yeah, and there are also a bunch of like free APIs. So I think there's one where you can like grab like Pokemon names or like and their stats and stuff. So you can use that data and render it on the screen in a fun way or have like a fun application for that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, just have fun to kind of summarize what Curly said. Just have fun with like any project that you're picking. There's a ton of stuff that you can find online, ton of open source projects and suggestions. So yeah, just pick the one you like and what seems interesting for you. I'm going to take one more question from the audience before I jump into questions about the tutorial itself. So, one more question we have from Simran, who's tuning in from LinkedIn. Simran, hello, welcome. She asks, what are the platforms that we can practice UI UX designing on?
Okay, gotcha. So I'm like more of an engineer, so I like code, and a designer actually designs the UI and UX for me. But what I've noticed is that a lot of them use Figma. So Figma is like collaborative, like design canvas where you can draw on it, but then someone else can also at the same time like work on it with you. So it's useful for collaboration between like designers or like designers and engineers and product managers. And something else we've also used was like Sketch and Zeppelin. So just like prototyping tools to take your design and then make it like clickable so we can kind of like see what the prototype sort of looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Figma is a great suggestion. I recently just started dabbling in it, and it's a lot of fun just to like play around with in my free time as well. So yeah, Figma is free as well for anyone who wants to get started in UI UX designing. Highly recommended. So yeah, I see that a lot of you guys have a lot of more questions about Three.js, about careers in web development or as a software engineer. I'll be getting to that shortly. There's also a lot of questions about whether this will be recorded. So Jamal here asks if it will. And don't worry, guys, this session is being recorded right now and it will be up on YouTube as soon as it ends. So if you can't follow through this like with the live tutorial, you can always watch it whenever you have free time and follow through. So yeah, Curly, with that, I'm just gonna move on to my next question that I have for you, which is about the tutorial that we'll be starting today. So could you just tell us a little bit about what you're going to create, what tools we're going to use, and just give like a brief introduction to what we're going to do today?
Yeah. So can I share my screen or?
Yeah, sure. Let me
Okay,
just.
awesome.
Cool.
Cool.
Uh,
Yeah, so we'll be making this website on the side today. So you'll have like a spinning orb and then like floating things. And as you scroll, like these things move as you scroll. So this is what we'll be building in 3D. So keep scrolling. And then here are the tools we'll need. So download this. I've added the link in the GitHub for you to reference later. So just like hit like the one that you need. And then everything else, like once you have Node, you can download these three using your terminal. So you don't even need to like go to a website to download it. You can just open up your terminal. Terminal here, and then I'll make this big so that it's visible. And then you can download, for example, Yarn. So where it says like install, you can just like type this in your terminal and it'll install it for you. Yeah, so Node runs the JavaScript. Yarn is like an alternative to NPM. So this is like some companies use it. So at Uber, we use Yarn instead of NPM, but it's optional. And then we're going to need Vite, which is a development server. So this is what like takes your code and like puts it up on a browser in development. And then we have Three.js, which is a library, and this will download together later. And then something else you also need to download is a code editor. So I use Visual Studio Code, which is this right here. And some alternatives are like Sublime or TextEdit. But I really recommend a text code editor that's like for code, because sometimes they'll have built-in little helpful things for coding versus like TextEdit. Like technically you can use Microsoft Word, but yeah. And then there's GitHub. So GitHub is where I'm hosting this tutorial. This will let you open source your code and also work with version control. So sometimes you might be working with a lot of different people and you're all changing the same file at the same time. This will manage the conflicts so that everyone's on the same page. And yeah, so I think that's all for the intro.
Awesome. I think this is a great time to get started on the tutorial. I see that Sushmita asked if we can make it a little better. So if you could just zoom your window, is that possible, or just make the text big?
Yeah, like this text or
Yeah.
this text?
I think she's talking about the terminal text because I believe that
Okay,
was.
yeah. Let's hope this is good. Yeah, is this better?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think this looks good right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Sushmita, just yeah, drop in any comments if you still can't see it, or if you any of you would like the text to be bigger or smaller. So yeah, um, I think this is a great time to just get started with the tutorial, Curly. So awesome.
cool. Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create my projects. So I'm going to cd, which is change directory, into the folder that I want to work in, which I just have called dev, and then ls, which lists everything in the folder. There's nothing in the folder. So I'm going to do yarn create feat, and this will create a feat project. So it says to name it, and then I'm going to call this like hacker rank demo Three.js, and I'm going to pick vanilla. Okay, done. So now what it says is change directory to this folder that just created for you. Here it is, and then ls, which is like show me what's in this folder, and these are all the things in my folder. So what I can do is actually open it up here. So I can open dev, and this is my new folder. And let me make this bigger. Let me know if it's not big enough. But here we have our HTML file, just like the bread and butter. And then we have our JavaScript file that's linked here. So it says like use the scripts from this file, which is right here. And then in here, we're importing our CSS file, which is right here. So these are the three main files that we're going to need. And okay, yeah. And then we have a package.json. So this will give you some scripts you can use. So basically, you just write yarn dev or yarn build or yarn preview to run these scripts. And then we have some dependencies. So these are like libraries that you're using in your project. So now I'm going to do yarn add 3. So this will install the Three.js package into our code. So right now you see another thing that comes up, dependencies 3. So it's in here. And then in node modules, we have all these folders. These are also all the pre-downloaded libraries that we have. And 3 is in here. So these are all like the files from the library for Three.js. And yep. And then what we're going to do is run yarn. And this will run yarn install, just updates everything, make sure everything's okay. And then we run yarn dev. So it pops up a thing that says localhost 3000. And this is our website. So the cool thing about Vite is it has hot reloading. What this means is that whenever I make a change here, like if I say hello, it will show up on here. So I just changed. I didn't change. Okay, but yeah, so like this theoretically should be changing like this title here, or I can go in a JavaScript file and then do hello here, save the file. Oh, I didn't save the file, that's why. And then it'll just change by itself. So that's cool. And then yeah, so just change by itself too. Yep. Cool. And now let's get into it. So in the HTML file, what we're going to do is just get rid of this. And instead, we're going to replace it with canvas elements. So this is built-in HTML element called the canvas. And we will give it an ID. So we'll just call it main content. And then you see how they just popped up. So it's like a handy thing. If you use a code editor, it'll like kind of guess what you want and pop it in for you. Yep. And then we're going to go into style. So right now, I'll just save this. So we have our main content that we just created. Main content. So if you hover over this, it'll give you a little suggestion. So it says that this is actually grabbing anything that has an ID equals main content. So we got the right one. And this is going to target our canvas that we just made. And then I'm just going to put in like some positioning styling. So top 0 and then left 0. So this is just going to make a canvas in a fixed position and align it to the top corner of the screen. Okay, now we're going to go in a JavaScript file, and we don't need this anymore. And what we want to do is import our Three.js library. So import star as 3 from 3. Okay, and then we're going to start with building this scene. So if you've used like a 3D modeling tool before, you'll know that there's like you need to set your like world, and then you have the cameras and your lights, and then when you export it, you need to like pick a rendering parameters. So we're gonna need to do all that, but in code. So first off, we have our scene. So what we can do here is do this. So now we have a scene that's instantiated from the 3 library, and it gives you a little like blurb about what it does. So where you place object, lights, and cameras. So the next key ingredient is a camera. So we're going to use a perspective camera, and then it'll tell you what 3 parameters mean. So we have FOV, aspect, near, and far. So here we have this 1, 2, and 3. So aspect is aspect ratio. So it's like the size of your screen. So this, we just want it to be the width divided by height. So that's just the ratio of our screen right here. And the near and far is like, if anything is too closer than 0.5, we don't see it. And if anything is further away than the 1,000, we don't see it either. Yeah. And then...
yes, so currently we have a couple of questions if you would just like to take it now. Okay, awesome. So we have Doit from LinkedIn who asks, what is the NPM equivalent command for what she did in Yarn?
Yeah, so NPM, you can just switch out yarn with NPM. So anywhere you see yarn, just write NPM instead, and it should work the same.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, and I think we had one more question from Prakhar about the code. What was the starting statement we had to add and to install the folders?
Oh, yeah. So the command was yarn create beats. So if you have NPM, you'd probably want to use, let me just put this here. Like, or you can probably just do NPM create beat. So either of these should work.
Great. Yeah, and I think so. This isn't really a question, but Austin just says he's happy to be here and he's new to tech. So thank you, Austin, for joining us, and we hope you get to learn a lot today. Awesome. I think, yeah, you can proceed, Kirby.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So now that we have a camera, we can also give it a position. So I'm gonna like set it a little bit in the Z position. So have a camera and it has a position field, and I can set the Z portion of it to be 20. And then now that I have this set up, I have a render. So a render is what takes a scene and paints it on your canvas. So I'm also importing something from 3 library, and it's going to take my canvas that I just created. So I just called it main content. So I just make sure it's called this. And then I need to give it pixel ratio. So it's just like whatever's on like my device's like resolution. And then I need to set the size. So it's just the same thing like Windows like width and Windows height. And then this is what's going to put things together. I'm going to do render scene and camera. Oops. Okay, so something also cool, if you're debugging websites, you can hit inspect, like right click inspect, and you see all this So here you can see we have a canvas, and this is the highlighted part is our canvas that we just made, the main content. And then this is a styling that's going in it. So you see the CSS that we just made. And console is what's very cool. So here, if there's any errors, we'll see it in the console. So let's say I spell this wrong and I save it, and it says uncaught reference error, like camera is not defined. So this will tell you what's wrong in your code if you get any errors. And I just like to keep it open sometimes just to like keep an eye on it. Yeah. So now you see we have a black screen. Something we can do is update the background color. So scene has a background field, and I can set it to this creamy color, and we have a scene. So now we're going to go to the fun part, which is adding the shape. So let's do this, and then like geometries. So Three.js has some built-in geometries that you can just look at. Oops. Yeah, let me just put this up. So here they have like spheres, and then if you look up other geometries, so this is documentation that they have. So they have all different kinds of things. They have boxes, they have cones, cylinders, and all these weird shapes. So you can just pick any of them and put them into your code. And the way you do that is, let's say I wanted to use the octahedron geometry. I would do this. So I'll make a new variable called crystal geometry, and I'm importing octahedron geometry from this library. So the 1 is the radius and 0 is the detail. So sometimes it's like I don't really know what like detail means, for example. So I can look in here and look for octahedron and then see what it looks like if I have more detail and less detail. Okay, so now that we have a geometry, we need to give it a material. So something very easy is just like a basic white basic material. I'm just gonna make this bigger. Yeah, so I'm using a basic material from the 3 library again and giving a color using the hex, which is like white. So I'm gonna go in here and nothing. So what we're missing here is we need to create a mesh with the 2 things combined together. So I'm gonna make a new variable, and then I'm gonna put this here. So a mesh is a combination of geometry, which is a shape, and the material. And together we can have a crystal. Now what we need to do is add this to the scene. So we need to do scene.add crystal. And then one last thing is, because we rendered the scene here, but we just changed scene. So this render didn't pick up our change. So we need to move this at the end so that it can pick up our change, and we have our crystal on our screen. With the crystal, you can do some different things, like using a standard material. So there's basic and there's standard. So let's get rid of this and put this a white material. And it turns up black. But why is it? Because we just gave it the same color. So the thing about standard materials is that it actually requires light to reflect back. So we can go ahead and make some lights now. Something quick and easy is an ambient light. So ta-da, now it's the color that we expected it to be. And then we can also do some cool things with the lights. For example, instead of ambient lights, we have point lights. So these are like spotlights, and you can give them fun colors. And then now that we have them, we need to add them to the scene. And you can see now it's like blue and pink, but really that color is coming from our point lights.
That looks beautiful.
Thanks. And then we can make it even cooler by introducing even more complex materials. So instead of like a white material, let's say we want a shiny material, and it has the color that's still white and has a bit of metalness, a little bit of roughness, and a lot of shininess. And we can even set transparent to true. So like these two need to go together. If you want it to be semi-transparent, you need this transparent flag. Just to let them know you actually do want it to be semi-transparent or fully transparent. And then the opacity will set how transparent it is. And then we can take this material and put it here. And ta-da! It's kind of hard to see that it's transparent right now, but once we add more things to it, you can see things like behind it.
Awesome. So, Curly, we have a couple of questions. So, do you mind if we pause to take them right now?
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Sarah tuning in from LinkedIn asks, I'd love to know what icon theme you have for your VS Code icons. They are cute. And
Oh,
I've seen
yes.
this coming in a couple of times. Yeah.
Yeah. So these icons, so what you can do is you can download it here. So this icon theme is the one that I made. It's open source in GitHub if you want to find it. It's called Stardew icon theme. So this is the one that I have. And then there are like seasons. So if you there's autumn mode and like winter mode. And then I need like add spring and summer. But you can set it and you can choose which theme you want, like the regular one or the like winter one or the autumn one. So now that I've updated it, you can see my icons slightly change on the side. They're like more icy colored. Yeah.
Awesome. So for anyone who wants to know the icon theme, it's Stardew icon theme. So yeah, get yourself some cute VS Code icons. Also, I've seen this question come in a couple of times, which is, can you share the README, that is the GitHub link? So if you could just share it to me, I'll just add it in a banner so everyone can see it, everyone tuning in right now. So awesome. Let me just add that to the banner. Okay. So for everyone asking for the README, the GitHub link, this is it, github.com/klgap/3D portfolio. So this is the README. So yeah, everyone who wants to check it out, just go to this link. I'll be flashing this banner every now and then in between if you guys want to find it. But yeah, this is the GitHub link. Awesome. I think we can continue now. Good.
Okay, awesome. Yes, so this. Okay. Yes. And then what we can also do here is we can clone shapes that we already have. So I already have like this crystal, but what if I want two of them? I can do this like crystal 2, and this will clone, so it'll make another one that looks just like this crystal. So now it's like behind it, like overlap, so that's why it's a little darker. What we can do now is move it a little bit on the side so you can see there's two of them. So it's like it's right here. And then yeah, so make sure you add it to your scene, and that's how like you do scene.add to make sure it gets added to your page. And what if I want like even more of these? What I can do is create mesh with random position. Okay. Okay, so this is a fun function, but let me walk you through this function. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating the mesh. So I'm taking in a geometry and material as parameters and making a new mesh with it. And then what I'm going to do is the same thing here, basically. Like I'm creating a mesh, which is this line, and then I am giving it position, right, which is basically this line. And I'm making it flexible so that we can plug in variable parameters to it. So I can give it any geometry material, and then I have this function here. So this line generates random XYZ values that you're going to put in here. So let me walk you through this a little bit. So what array3 does, so what I can do is console log array3. Oh. So I would have actually expected it to show up in here. Maybe I have. Huh. Okay. Well, so array 3 actually just makes you like an array of 3 elements. And then what we're going to do is we're going to fill it, which means it's going to be null, 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 null. Also the log fill. Yeah, weird. Okay. Anyways, and what map does is it takes what we have right now. So let me just like type it out. No, no, no. Null. And then what it does is it maps, so iterates over each of these. And what it'll do is it will replace this element with whatever output of this function is. So this is the arrow function. And it's equivalent to like any of these other functions where you have your parameters here, and then this is what's inside your function. And because there's like no parens, it will just return this value for you. So this is a math util from the 3 library again, and it'll give you a random float, which is a random decimal number from the minus range to to the positive range. So it'll give me anything like between minus 170 to plus 170. So it'll just replace this with like a random number like 100 and then like 90 and then like -1. So this is what's going to happen in this function here. And we're going to grab these 3 and set it as XYZ positions. And then we're going to add this mesh that we just created to the scene. And then the way we use this is we just call this function and with the geometry. So we have a geometry already created, the crystal geometry, and then we have the white material, which I commented out. And it should be somewhere in here. Maybe we just can't see it. What we can do is actually create like a lot of them at the same time. So we're going to use the array 3 that we just did. So instead of 3, we want like 50 of these. And then we're going to do the same thing where we do the fill. And then we're going to map. And then we're going to give it this function. So we're going to put this here. So it's going to run this 50 times. Yeah, so syntax error, missing like the bracket after argument list. So here it has a little like squiggy line, so I know this is where it is. And then it says like bracket expected or parentheses. Okay, so a lot of errors here, here, and here. Let's try this. Okay, cool. So we fixed it. And I can see all the random ones. So we don't see all of them because we're like sort of looking at one section of the whole world, but there are like lots of them everywhere. And what we can do also is instead of using meshes that we already have, we can just go ahead and create a new one just right in here. So we can do a new geometry that's a sphere, and we can have these properties in it. So like the radius is 0.3, and then it has 20 width segments and height segments. So the more you have, the smoother your like sphere is gonna look. And then we're just gonna give it the white material again. And yeah, it's kind of hard to see them. Oops. But yeah, they're in there. And then because we're using a random function, so every time we hit refresh, it shows up in a random, like a new random position, except for these 2, which we just set. Yeah. Okie dokies. And then what we can also do is create, like augment this function. So we'll take the same function, but add a little twist to it. By twist, I mean rotations. So we're going to call this create mesh with random position and rotation. So rotation is also one of those built-in properties of geometry. So we'll still take in the same things, and then we're still going to give it a random position, but we can use the same like random generator thing to give us rotations. We're gonna call it like R, like rotational X, rotational Y, and rotational Z. Same thing, random range, but we're gonna give the range to be ones because these are like degrees that this accepts. And then I'm gonna use mesh.rotation. Instead of position, I have rotation, and I'm just set it to Rx, Ry, and Rz. So I'm using the rotational values. And then same thing, scene.add mesh, and that should put it on the scene. So let's make, so do the same thing. We still have array 50 fill, and we're mapping over all 50 elements. And we're gonna create the random position and rotations with a new torus geometry. So torus is like another way to say like donut. So we're gonna make a new donut geometry and give it a shiny material that we just created up here. So we're gonna use this material now. I'm gonna hit save, and you can see some shiny donuts show up. So I'll just refresh them, maybe you'll see more. So yeah, donuts.
This is exciting. I think it's shaping up to look awesome. I'm excited to see where it goes. We have a couple of comments that have come in as questions. So we got one from Vansh, which is a general question, not really about the tutorial specifically, but he asks how can he master JavaScript. So if there's something you can shine some light on, Kirby, that would be great.
Yeah, I think this is a tough one. Like, I don't think I've mastered JavaScript. I think it's hard because there's so many like cool things that JavaScript can do and can't do. And I see like sometimes like I follow like tech like JavaScript people on Twitter, and sometimes they'll post like surprising things that JavaScript does that are unexpected. For example, if you try and convert 010 to a number, it will actually give you 8 instead of 010 back. Because it converts to the binary. So there's some like quirks to JavaScript that are not very obvious. Yeah, but I think that the way that I've been kind of going at it is just like practice or just like using it in my day-to-day, because at my work I use JavaScript, at work I use React, and that's just sort of, and reading other people's code, so reviewing their code and seeing like, oh, that's a cool thing that you did like with your like spread operator, for example. And that's kind of how I augment my own JavaScript vocabulary.
Awesome. Yeah, I think learning from experience kind of just trumps everything else. And yeah, I'd also plug in our HackerRank platform here because we do have a couple of certifications for JavaScript. So yeah, check it out if you're interested. We have another question from Hussein from YouTube who asks, any ideas on how to get into generative art? Is Three.js suitable for this?
Yeah, so Three.js is like mostly for 3D. So if you wanted to make 3D generative art, like this is the platform you'd want to use. There's some other like artsy things. Like you might like shaders. If you look into like WebGL shaders, like that might be cool to get some like cool generative, like more wavy kind of art. Yeah, like I think there's something also called like p5.js, which is a library for creative coding. So that might be cool for you. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, then I think, yeah, we can continue, Curly, and I'll bring up any other questions we have later.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm just trying to think about what we want to do next. Okay, so now that you can see it's like kind of transparent here. So now that we have a lot of these things, we can also do something called like textures. So instead of like just a flat shape, sometimes you want like really rich shapes or fluffy shapes. And what this is going to require is a texture loader. I'm actually going to add a section here. So texture loader, textures. And this is from Three.js, and we can load a normal map. So I actually don't have this file right now, but what you can just do is go to Google and look up like normal map. And here it's like in 3D computer graphics, normal mapping or bump mapping is something that gives things like texture. So you can go to images, and here are all the normal maps. They're all sort of this like purpley color, and I like this one. Oh, but it has the, okay, maybe this one. And you can just like save it as a picture. So like save image as normal map dot JPEG in, so oh yeah, right here. Saved, and it's right here. And I can load it. And then what we're going to do is use this texture in our material. So we have our mesh standard material like before, and we have the color, roughness, so on. And here's like the new part, the normal map. So we put here the normal texture into this field. And emissive is like a slightly glowiness. So this is just a color for it. I'm going to hit save. Oh, yeah. So now we need to use it somewhere. So I'm going to make a big sphere. So same thing, sphere geometry, give it some parameters, and then I'm gonna put them into a mesh. So same thing, just material, geometry, mesh. So here's the big sphere with our two things, and then we need to remember to add it to our scene. So here we go. So it's not very textury, so something is wrong. Is this here? Yes. Oh, I know. So there's like this weird thing. You don't see texture unless like you animate it. So I'm gonna put in an animation function. So here, I'm gonna make a function, animate. So this actually is equivalent to const animate is equal to this. So this is like the arrow function format, and then this is like the regular function format. But you'll like, it's a little shorter, so sometimes when you see me do like the one-liners, I'll use this way to do it. So we have our function animate, and so this is something that's built in to Three.js, just request animation frame, animate recursive function, so it just keeps calling itself. And then what I'm actually going to do is put this rendering function inside the animate. So now this is going to just call, because we're not calling animate, nothing's happening. We're not even rendering. So we need to call animate. And then ta-da, we have our shape with shininess. I don't know why this happens, that you have to animate it to make the texture show up. But yeah, so now you see it's shiny, ridged. And in this animation function, this is where we can like make things start moving. So I'm going to just do something handy here, like animated meshes. So here are the meshes that I want to animate. So I can go up and look, what do I have here? I have crystals. So I can put my crystals in here, crystal 1, crystal 2. And then I also want to animate my big sphere. So take this mesh and put it in here. And I'm going to take my animated meshes and use the dot map function again. So this is going to iterate through every one of these. And I'm going to do the arrow function format here. So mesh here is actually like crystal. So like imagine crystal is mesh right now. And then we can do basically a crystal dot rotation dot y plus equals. So what plus equal does is it takes whatever is the existing rotation and adds this value to it. So I'm going to add like something kind of small. We'll see how it looks. And then it's going to rotate this crystal by a little bit. And then it was going to go through to the next one and do the same thing. So then it's going to go to crystal 2. So mesh is now crystal 2. and it'll do the rotation. Big sphere, same thing. So everything's going to rotate at the same rate. So now you can see this is actually rotating. Maybe I'll make it smaller. Oh, but yeah, you can see this like rotating on the edge here, and then this big thing rotating, which is very cool.
Awesome. That looks great, Curly. I see that we have a couple of really interesting questions about Three.js coming. So I'm just gonna flash them for you to answer. So Ruben from LinkedIn asks, can I create a portfolio with React and Three combined in JavaScript?
Yeah, like I don't see why not. So like the like 3D parts I think have to be like in sort of like this format, like not like Reacty, but you can for sure add React components to it. And like in the beginning when we created like Yarn Beat Create, there's an option for React. So you can just pick that and then it'll give you a React scaffolding.
Awesome. Got it. So yeah, we have another question from Chatula from LinkedIn, who asks, "What are the best practices when it comes to responsiveness?" And yeah, I think this is a really interesting question in general for anyone learning web development.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so
Yeah, nice. So yeah, so like this is not responsive right now. And the way you can tell is I'm gonna move this, like this kind of weird thing happens, like it's not scaling with the screen. So this is definitely not responsive because I refresh, like it's kind of like this again. So something that we should do is like in the animate, what people would add is a change of the rendering aspect ratios. So whenever we or some sort of on-change handler, when the window size changes, we want to adjust our render aspect ratio, for example. And then, yeah, so the responsiveness part is also, for example, our canvas size. So here you can see that we're actually using a Windows inner width and inner height for size. So this is going to resize according to your window. So if I make this small and I hit refresh, it's going to recalculate and say my inner width and inner height is this. And then when I make this big, I'm going to refresh and it's going to recalculate like the width and height based on the window's like ratio. So that's sort of one thing. Another thing about responsiveness is as your screen gets smaller and smaller, sometimes you have like a sidebar on the side, you want to actually collapse that, right? Because you don't have space anymore. So that's something like that's sort of like a design question, like how do I want to arrange the things on the screen so that it makes sense for a narrow phone screen versus like a wide desktop screen. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
yeah, Chatula, just let us know if that answers your question or you have any other doubts. But yeah, moving on to a question we got from Justin, who's tuning in from YouTube. He says he's run into performance problems when dealing with large Three.js projects. And he asked if you have any resources or suggestions that basically just cover optimization in general when you're working with Three.js.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I actually haven't run into this issue before. Like I haven't really done big projects. Yeah, but like I feel like you probably already know this, but what you can do is make less vertices. So for example, where it says where's my sphere? Like for example, my sphere, I have like 64 as my height segment, so I can like make this a little smaller. It might look a little chunkier, but yeah. But other than that, I don't have any ideas. But let me know if you do find out anything, because that would be very interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, anyone who's worked with Three.js before who's tuning in right now, just drop it in the comments, any tips or tricks that you have. And yeah, we'd love to keep this as interactive as possible. So yeah, Curly, I think we can continue with that.
Okay. Yeah. So like I think one last part is we want this to like scroll. So there is nothing really to scroll because the screen is like this big, there's no content. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some HTML content to this that I already have prepared on the side. Um, so I'm just gonna add like a fake little resume, and then this is actually main content. Yeah, and then we're gonna have to render this on the screen. So I'm going to pop in some pre-prepared CSS. And we have our content. And you can see it scrolling, but the background isn't scrolling. So we need to go back in here, and we're going to add a function called move camera. And so what we're going to start and do is grab the document's top. So that's just like here. And then we're going to move our camera as a ratio compared to how much we scrolled. So like the camera's position, we can change the Z, the X, the Y, and we can hit save. And now we need to actually add an event handler. So this is like a built-in HTML JavaScript kind of thing where you can do like document.body.onScroll. So whenever a user scrolls, so this fires automatically, we want to run this function. So as I'm scrolling, we're running the function and it's moving. You can see everything floating around. Cool. So now we're like basically done with our project. And
Awesome.
yeah, I want to go over like one quick thing that I don't think a lot of tutorials cover, which is how to deploy this. Like I have my code on my computer, but how do I make it visible for someone else and have a website URL for someone to view it, right? And this is where Vercel comes in. Oops. So there are also a lot of alternatives to Vercel, like Heroku, but basically it lets you ship your code. So deploy, continue with GitHub. Oh yeah, so another thing is you need to have this in a GitHub repository for it to even import. So let's do that right now real quick. So also another thing that people don't, like I didn't learn until later, is like you see how this is running? So how do I stop this from running, right? Because right now I've typed things like it's not going. So the trick is Control C. Control C stops it, and now I'm back to my regular thing, and it stops the server. So I hit refresh and it's gone. So I've stopped the server from running. So what I want to do is actually create a new Git repo. So I need to go to GitHub. Oh, I don't really know. So this is like an example of responsive design where it looks different like this versus like when you pull it out, now you have two columns. Then we'll do a new repository and call the same thing. So HackerRank demo 3.js. I'm gonna make it public or private, and I'm gonna skip everything, create repository. So now on GitHub on this website, I have an empty repository. And I'm going to git init. So in this folder, I'm going to make it a Git folder. Okay, so now initialize empty Git repository. And then I'm going to skip adding a README, and I'm going to commit. So git status. So git status shows me what's the status of the files in my folder. So right now it says it's not tracked. So I need to hit git add and then dot, so which is just like everything. So I'm going to add everything, git status, and you can see they're all green, they're ready to be committed. So now I can run this commit message. So git commit -m first commit. Oh, I don't know. I think I'm missing a quote. Okay, well, and then what I'm going to do is also run this. So right now, if I hit git status, it says that I'm on branch master. So the industry standard right now is to use, instead of master, use main. So git branch -main. So git status. So now I'm on branch main. And then I'm going to remote add. So what's going to do is connect my folder on my laptop to this repo in the remote, like GitHub repository. So this is going to create a link between them. And then what this is going to do is it's going to push my changes. So whatever updates I've made on my computer, this is going to push it up into GitHub. And then once I run this, I can delete my folder on my laptop and the code is still going to be there in GitHub. Yeah, so I hit git status and everything's good. I'm up to date. And I've hit refresh here. You can see that my code is all in here. So I'm going back into Vercel and you can see that my new folder is right here. Hit import, deploy, and then it's going to take a minute. So like in industry, like at work, sometimes people will have like an internal tool to run this, like to run deploys. And yeah, there's like a lot of things that can go into this deployment process. For example, some teams might say, we don't want to run deploys on Fridays, just in case like there's no one around to fix things if we release something to the public. That's bad. So here, congrats. And this is really quick and you can click on it and you have a website that if I send to you, you can see it too. And yeah, so one thing you might notice is that you can notice a couple things. For example, the big sphere just disappeared when we scroll, and I realized what's wrong is in the positioning. So here it's going to move relative to the top, but what we actually want to do is it started out at a position that is 4. So I think you need, oh sorry, the camera's position. So camera position started out at Z is 20, that we set it here. So we actually need to add 20 here. Yeah, and also notice that there's no image. So we can do the same trick here, inspect, and it says fail to load resource. And this is the resource that can't load, which is normal map.jpg. So not found. So this is helpful to figure out what's wrong. And yeah, so something weird about Vercel is that you need to put this in a public folder. So like if you like Google like this error and you Google Vercel, it'll tell you, oh, you're like the quirk of Vercel is that it requires all your assets to be in a public folder and move. So this will still work. So if we go in here and run yarn dev again, just to pull up our development version. So this one, you hit refresh. So it's running. So it still works, even though we didn't change this path here. Usually what happens is when you move files around, you need to do /public here. But because we're on Vercel and it's doing some magic for us, we don't. And then so Control C again to stop this server. And then you can hit git status and then git add dot, which is add everything, git status again. Okay, also check this out. When you move, when I scroll, there's no jumping and the ball is still there, right? Because we adjusted our Z formula. So git commit -m fix. Oh, weird. Status. Okay, so now it says to git push. So once we push, this is going to go up onto GitHub. So we'll see this change. Whoops, this is the one. So refresh. And 15 seconds ago, I pushed a fix. And then in Vercel, what I can do is hit refresh, go to dashboard, ready. So it says it picked up my new change and you see it already like re-rendered. So I hit refresh here and we have our texture show up. So this is part of why like sometimes we have staging development to test out these quirks that happen in the Vercel land, like the build and deploy step, so that we can check things on our staging environments. So it'll be like HackerRank demo 3.js -staging, just to see how it looks before we actually deploy it to the real public URL. And yeah, so this is it.
Awesome. That was really amazing. I think I myself learned a lot, and I really think I'm going to try my hand at a 3.js tutorial myself. So yeah, we got a couple of questions regarding it. So I'm just gonna flash it over here. So Jordan from LinkedIn asks, well, first of all, Jordan is a software engineering student from the UK. And he asks, what small projects would you recommend creating to learn more Three.js?
Oh, yeah. So there's a lot of good resources if you just like search like 3GS tutorial. But like the one I like best is the one of created by the creator of 3GS, and it has like a sort of like textbook style where it walks you through different like progressions, so you create more and more complex things. But I forgot what it's called. Oh yeah, yeah, this is the one. So you get to like learn how to make something like this, and it's like tells you things do, and then like using it with React, so on, and yeah, so it has cool. Oh yeah, and then there's a part about responsiveness that someone asked about. Oh wow, I lost it. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so like it has an interactive window, so you can like update your code here, and it'll show up in here. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great resource. And of course, this tutorial itself is a great resource, you guys, a great starter tutorial for Three.js. I'm just going to flash the GitHub link again in case you guys want to go and check it out and get started right after this live stream ends. Of course, the video will be up on LinkedIn and YouTube as well. So yeah, I think another question we got was, can you make it a star instead of a sphere? So I think he's asking if we can just play around with the shapes of like what we do on Three.js.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I don't really know how to make a star. It's like not one of these things, but it has like a plane geometry. Yeah, there's also other ones where you can take like a random like 2D shape and extrude it so that you can have a star. But you have to make the basic shape first. I wonder if I just like do star, it'll give me something. Yeah, no. So this is something that you'll have to probably look into yourself. Yeah, like extrude geometry. Like this should be the one. But yeah, oh, you see how there's like shape? So like you have these lines, so you have to like arrange the lines so that it makes a star shape and then extrude it. So yeah,
Awesome.
like here we have a heart, for example. But you'll have to like make the heart shape yourself like this. So yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So basically, it's just like Blender, except it's all in code. So yeah. Awesome. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and remove the screen. Awesome. So that was a great tutorial, Curly. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure a lot of us have learned a lot. For example, Dazzy from LinkedIn says it's just great to be here. So thank you for joining us, Dazzy. And we're glad you found this live stream useful. A lot of people are just saying thank you for the tutorial, thank you for the suggestions. So yeah, I mean, great job all around, Curly. Thank you for joining us today. And I think I have one last question to just end this live stream on. I think it's a very general question. There's just any advice that you have for any up and coming software engineers or web developers? Because I'm sure there's a lot of aspiring engineers watching this today, right now, or just general tech enthusiasts. So yeah, anything that you would like to enlighten us on?
Yeah. I think just like have fun with it. I think like when people look at your work, they'll know that you're really enjoying what you're doing. And there's so much beyond coding. So some people are like, well, my coding is that great. But like in the real world, like coding is just one part of it, and a lot of it is collaboration. And a lot of times when code like breaks in production, like there's some big issue where like the website crashes, it's not because of a bug in the code, and it's like a human error in a config. So some put in the wrong number, miss a little thing here and there, and that's what caused the issue. So don't be discouraged if you feel like, oh, you're not like doing so well in coding, or yeah. So just have fun with it, and you can do it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty well. Just like have fun, whatever you choose to do, whether it's coding, whether it's engineering or anything else. And yeah, just follow your interest, follow your passion. Thank you so much, Curly. This was really, really helpful. Again, congratulations on being chosen as a HackerRank All Star. And yeah, we can't wait for future events like this with you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Aditi, and thanks so much, everyone.
Awesome. So thank you so much, the audience, for joining us. Please stay tuned for all of our upcoming HackerRank TV live streams. We have a bunch of exciting stuff lined up. And yeah, see you later. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time.